Please be seated. Welcome to this grand occasion and beautiful night, celebrating Montgomery Bell Academy's 148th commencement. Good evening to our guests, families, alumni, students, boards, faculty and staff, and most importantly tonight, the MBA class of 2015. Cole Jones, president of our senior class, will deliver this evening's invocation.
Let us pray. Thank you for this beautiful day, for the rain and the thunderstorms, and for saving them for a later date. We are grateful for the opportunity to attend Montgomery Bell Academy. Thank you for our friendships, the challenges, and our accomplishments. Thank you for our parents who have supported us in all of our endeavors. Not only for our parents, but thank you for our teachers, our coaches, our administrators, and our staff who have given of themselves so that we could become MBA graduates. Give us guidance and love as we embark upon new challenges in our lives, but never let us forget the foundation which has been laid on this hill. Amen.
Some of you probably noticed that as the 116 graduates processed, they are wearing handkerchiefs tonight, and the handkerchiefs symbolize remembrance of one of their classmates who passed away last May. His parents sent this note yesterday. Congratulations, class of 2015, on your commencement. We are so proud of all you have accomplished and the gentleman you have become. As you celebrate today, we ask that you also celebrate Wesley and all he accomplished and the gentleman that he was. In the time Wesley spent at MBA from 7th grade on, he became an athlete and a true sportsman. He became a scholar and a thoughtful world citizen. He became an artist, developed a kind and helping heart, and made enduring friendships. We are so proud of what he achieved and grateful to you, the MBA community, for nurturing him along the way. Wesley has been gone for almost 1 year. It's difficult to describe how much we miss him. Wesley is still and will always be a part of our family in a form we cannot see but feel every day in our hearts. We are glad to know that Wesley also lives on in the hearts and minds of his friends, teachers, and coaches, and in the hearts and minds of everyone in the extended MBA community. Thank you for remembering Wesley today. We thank you for carrying him all the way through the Singh family. The commencement ceremony traces its origins to the pattern of degree granting developed at the University of Paris around 1100. In the early days of the University of Paris, the discipline of the students and indeed their entire education fell under the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Paris, who was responsible for local educational matters. In an attempt to perform his office, the bishop claimed supervision of curriculum and degree granting. Here he ran into trouble from the teachers, who felt they were the proper judges of the qualifications of their students. They demanded the right to grant the degrees. The modern commencement ceremony represents a compromise between the bishop and the teaching masters. By 1200, the masters were judging the merits of the students and then recommending them to the bishop who conferred the degree. The ceremony you are witnessing this evening is the successor to the medieval compromise. The faculty sits in a reserved space in its role as teacher and examiner. The headmaster, representing the intentions of the faculty, presents the candidates for the diploma. Acting upon the recommendation of the faculty, the chairman of the Board of Trustees formally confers the diploma. The academic dress worn by the faculty has its origins in the clerical robes worn by the students and teachers at the earliest medieval universities. Both the caps and the sleeves signify the types of degree earned by the individual, and the colors symbolize the college or university from which the individual received his or her degree. The commencement ceremony, rooted in clerical procedure dating back almost 1,000 years, is a rich and colorful and stately ritual. This evening you will have seen the diploma candidates form a line of honor for the faculty and the trustees as they processed in. At the conclusion of the ceremony, you will see the faculty and trustees reverse this procedure as they form a line of honor through which the graduates will recess, and by means of which the graduates are honored as joining the ranks of all those who have preceded them in earning all the rights and distinctions which this institution has to offer. Would our salutatorian please come forward?
Headmaster Joya, Chairman Ingram, members of the board, members of the faculty and staff, fellow classmates, friends and family, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Montgomery Bell Academy's 148th commencement exercises. Before I begin, I would like to congratulate my classmate and good friend, Michael Milam, for being the valedictorian of our class. Whichever field of study one may enter, whether it is engineering, medicine, law, business, arts, humanities, or the sciences, as citizens of the world, we must uphold an obligation to defend the oppressed, to stand up against injustice, especially when it is not convenient, and ultimately to strengthen the bonds between us and instill confidence in society. Wherever we may live and wherever we may go, this obligation is owed to all people. In To Kill a Mockingbird, written by Harper Lee in 1960, Atticus Finch is an attorney in the fictional town of Macomb, Alabama. Atticus defends an African-American man, Tom Robinson, who is accused of rape. Throughout the course of the novel, Atticus valiantly defends this innocent man whom the entire town has condemned, completely disregarding any evidence to the contrary. In his closing speech to the jury in the courtroom, Atticus not only gives an impassioned speech denouncing racial inequality, but also insists that the jury and society do their duty and release Tom Robinson, for to convict him would be an irreparable stain upon society. Although Tom is predictably convicted by the jury of 12 white men, Atticus teaches us what true courage means. As he says to his children, Jem and Scout, I wanted you to see what real courage is, instead of getting the idea that courage is a man with a gun in his hand. It's when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway, and you see it through no matter what. You rarely win, but sometimes you do. To fellow graduates of the class of 2015, think back to those first days of school as we stumbled into Massey Commons, introducing ourselves to each other, nervously awaiting our fate that day. Looming over us stood the head of the junior school, rumored to make any student cry before leaving his office. Although that day is now dripping with irony, nearly 6 years later, the question he posed still remains: why did we come to this school? At the Leavers dinner a couple of weeks ago, several seniors voiced their initial reluctance to come here. Not one expressed regret, however. In fact, several classmates chronicled the ways in which MBA's multifarious plant, programs, and opportunities have allowed them to explore and discover their passions. One in particular, Harry Stewart, told how he rootlessly wandered between clubs and activities before burgeoning a love for theater. Upon coming here, I thought I would join the debate team, but after learning I had some degree of aptitude in mathematics and sciences, I joined Science Olympiad, where I met my best friends. In fact, perhaps few other schools can claim that one of their students, in our case, James Throckmorton, has been both immortalized as a state championship-winning football player and inducted into the Cum Laude Society. So, why did we come here? I believe it was a combination of 3 reasons: intellectual curiosity, a drive to change the world, and a desire to find ourselves through our passions. When I think of the class of 2015, athletes, thespians, musicians, philosophers, and scholars alike, I don't think of any one individual. I think of a community of individuals comprised of different races, colors, creeds, and beliefs. MBA is a community where someone raised in Tennessee can become good friends with individuals from around this country and from abroad, such as New Zealand, China, Singapore, and the United Kingdom. There's a passage from the Bible which I believe aptly portrays this sense of camaraderie and fellowship among our classmates. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. Most notably, these verses underline MBA as a place where students cooperate as well as respectfully compete. For example, at the beginning of the 4th quarter, our calculus class began what has been dubbed by Mr. Compton as cutthroat calculus, wherein he explained that because the grades that quarter would be based on a curve, any point that a student gained on an assignment or test would lower the grades of the rest of the class. Rather than claw our way to success using nefarious means, all 18 of us shepherded our brothers through the unknown valleys of calculus, sardonically muttering cutthroat and making guttural laughs as we sat down to take our tests. For 4, 6, or even 7 years for some, we have waited for this moment, learning from the best. Our teachers have spent countless hours lecturing us, questioning us, and challenging us, yet with a goal towards attaining our true potential. Without their guidance and their confidence, we would not be here today. To all teachers, thank you for helping us take our first steps out of this city upon a hill and into our new homes. As newly minted graduates, it falls to us to uphold these lessons in the years and decades to come. To friends and family, your sons, your graduates, the class of 2015, have done extraordinary things, gone to extraordinary places, and have extraordinary ambitions. To all moms and dads, family and friends, those who are here and those who have passed, whatever we are and whatever we may become, it is the confidence you put in us, your helping hand, and your unwavering faith. But most of all, it is your unending love that has guided us on this journey. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Regardless of where we come from and where we are going, the coasts, the heartland, or staying right here in Tennessee, we share a common belief. That belief is that honor precedes all. Emblazoned on the buildings and halls of this campus are 3 words that emphatically declare this principle. 3 words that have become embedded not only in stone, but into our social consciousness: gentleman, scholar, athlete. Unquestionably, there will be challenges that arise through our careers and our lives. Sometimes, perhaps most times, we will lose. Nevertheless, follow in the footsteps of Atticus Finch and know that fighting the good fight, regardless of the outcome, is the definition of true courage. Ultimately, as we walk off into the wider world today, let us not forget our responsibility as citizens of the world, as gentlemen, and as human beings. But most importantly, remember that we all share an eternal bond, forged through the crucible of academia and the ethos of honor, respect, and care in this community. Good luck to each and every one of you, wherever you may be. Remember, we are and always will be Montgomery Bell Academy. Thank you and congratulations, class of 2015.
Did well. Great job. Thomas Morose. We congratulate you, Thomas, on earning the distinction of salutatorian for the class of 2015. Your achievements at MBA are impressive, but it is your character and your humility that will be the defining characteristics of your tenure. Your quiet nature belies the force and energy that built a computer in the 9th grade and found a love and passion and excellence in the world of science. Nashville and MBA are better because your family immigrated from Poland. You are widely admired for your authenticity and genuineness, and we expect you to have an illustrious career in the fields of computer science or biomedical engineering at the University of Rochester, where you earned an impressive scholarship. I proudly award you MBA's Salutatorian Medal. Would our valedictorian please come forward?
Good evening, Chairman Ingram, Mr. Joya, trustees, faculty, staff, friends and family, and of course, my dear class of 2015. First, I would like to congratulate Thomas and thank him for his well-spoken and thought-provoking remarks. This year has gone by at varying speeds, sometimes agonizingly slow, but much more often too fast. And as we stand or sit here on the brink of a new era, ready to take our last step, I have the privilege of sharing a few thoughts with you, and as the Latin would suggest, a farewell. But seeing as my address is one of the last obstacles to what some might define as sacred freedom, I will try to keep this short. This evening, I would like to begin with a painting by French post-impressionist Paul Gauguin entitled, "Where Do We Come From? What Are We? Where Are We Going?" In this work, Gauguin analyzes how one's origins as well as one's future contribute to identity. When you look in the mirror, who are you? Are you that bright face with eager eyes staring back at you? No. On the most basic level, you are a voice. The answer to Gauguin's second and central question is that inner monologue, that voice in our heads. That is who we are. This voice is a sort of alloy fashioned from a number of ores, the many aspects of character, from our talents and passions, our views and faith, to our likes and dislikes. But put quite simply, this voice is the sum of our experiences up to a given point in time, malleable and ever shaped by our newest influences. This dependence on our past for a sense of identity makes his first question even more important. Where do we come from? In the coming years, we must always bear in mind the answer to this question, since the values that we've learned here will define the way we interact with others. Our identity lies in our past and our home. As we look to the future, know that our voices will soon be tested. As often happens, we will find new ideas, new people, and new ways of thinking. And then it will be equally critical to ask, where are we going? When we are faced with identity crises, when our opinions are challenged, and when others tell us we are wrong, we will have to decide how we will allow our voice to change. In the face of this adversity, there will be two tendencies, ways in which we may feel pushed to react. The first is to succumb to criticism, to jump on the bandwagon and to fit the mold. Many will feel the need to tailor their own professed views to those around them in order to be accepted. Why should we fight? I mean, the other people are doing it, so obviously it's the right thing to do. The second is to rebel against others' views, refusing to acknowledge their legitimacy and becoming belligerent and even close-minded. If you're that poor soul entering a political science classroom, atlas shrugged in hand, you're going to be thoroughly challenged. Perhaps your professor or classmate, paraphrasing the noted Southern author Flannery O'Connor, orders you to place this lowest form of fiction into the nearest trash bin. In the face of such adversity, a response should be something of a compromise between the two extremes. In Gauguin's painting, the placement of our origins and our future on either side of our identity mirrors a scale and suggests we must find balance in the way we experience the new and assimilate it with the old. The middle ground is to stand firm in your values and stay true to your ideals while remaining open to the future. Never discount another's opinions, but instead take them apart and study them before assuming you disagree. You don't always have to be right. In fact, if you're wrong, it's better to decide that now than further down the road, because generally the stakes only get higher. Once you've done your due diligence, however, stand up for yourself and let your voice be heard. Finding and expressing your voice means deciding what you believe and standing by it regardless of others' criticism. This mindset applies to the way we lead others, just as our favorite Stoic philosopher, Seneca the Younger, 5 BC to 65 AD, once said, in Latin of course, "He who dreads hostility too much is unfit to rule." Or as the old saying of my mother's goes, "If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen." The truth is, almost any action will draw some sort of criticism. Winston Churchill, the noted provocateur and one of my late grandfather's heroes, once eloquently put it, "You have enemies? Good. That means you've stood up for something sometime in your life." But this rule of asserting yourself applies not only to outward actions. It also applies to our internal voice, our viewpoints, and our ideas. We should never be ashamed to depart from the mainstream. In fact, artists are often remembered not for the way they perfected an established form, but for how they pushed the way we consider art. Don't be afraid to express yourself in a new and different way, since you could be the next Van Gogh, scorned during your own lifetime, but later revered as one of the most revolutionary painters of an era. But on that same note, don't be afraid to embrace the mainstream if that is where your heart lies. Those who scorn something simply for its popularity still allow their actions to be defined by others. These people are not any more genuine than conformists, as they only pretend to like what they do in order to appear different. If the overproduced post-grunge Canadian rock of Nickelback just really gets your heart pumping, then gosh darn it, proclaim it to the world. I mean, not everyone can have great music taste. But to me, staying true to yourself is more than just holding on to your values. It's about finding a mode of expression or a place in which your voice can flourish. In the words of author Neil Gaiman, the one thing that you have that nobody else has is you. Your voice, your mind, your story, your vision. So write and draw and build and play and dance and live as only you can. I personally have enjoyed pursuing my passions in high school, whether they be classical piano, cross-country running, studying, or my relationship with God. In these places, something special happens. I can feel at home, and I can allow my voice to emerge. Part of the reason I am so proud of this class is that I see there are so many different voices and just as many ways that we have found to express them. Whether it be Andrew Conwell's brilliant footwork on the soccer team, Joseph Downey's encyclopedic knowledge of really any topic, or Jacob Lawther's amazing skill with video production, or maybe Sam Carey's remarkable pole vaulting, Harry Stewart's delectable baking, or Aaron Kaplan's innovative broadcasting. In all of these cases, I am amazed by what we can accomplish. This class is extremely special to me, and I am thankful that the school ensures that everyone can have a voice and pursue what he loves. I do need to make one final distinction, however, for some might rightfully call a bunch of loud voices shouting different things a cacophonous din. There is one thing that unifies all of these voices and that changes what could be discord into a wonderful harmony, and that would be respect. It's the kind of respect that brings the entire school together, led by a spirited senior class in a deafening roar at a football state championship game. It's the kind of respect that draws an entire class to Jess Darnell's clown show to support a friend in one of his many passions. And it's the same respect that moves us all to honor Wesley Sang this evening, one of our class's most vibrant voices, silenced much too early, who taught us so much and who blessed our lives with the smile we all came to know so well. It is not just our diversity, but also this respect that makes our class great, and it is why I know I can call each one of you my brother. Because when it comes down to it, even if our voices are wildly different, even if we have completely opposing views, or even if our passions may diverge, we all appreciate each other. Our football team this year, Team 116, was named for the age of our varsity football program, but this title also fittingly captures our class, since we are made up of 116 players working to form a whole. This class, this team, Team 116, we did it. This has been a memorable and a fantastic journey, and a great part of me is saddened that it must come to an end. But as we look onward and upward, let us always be sure to remember where we come from, who we are, and where we're going. Thank you.
Beautiful. Great job. Michael Milam. We congratulate you, Michael, on earning the distinction of valedictorian for the class of 2015. You, too, have earned an exceptional record at MBA. It is nearly impossible to pin down what areas in which you have not shown a type of excellence and elegance. Your interests range from theater to music and art and science and astronomy and the classics. You have represented MBA and Eton College and proved that you will be a competitor in any field of endeavor. Your classmates and the faculty admire both your innate abilities and tremendous work ethic. You will no doubt express that same multiplicity of talents and engagement at Princeton next year, where we anticipate you will build upon this stellar career. I proudly award you MBA's 2015 Valedictorian Medal. Mr. John Meacham is Executive Editor and Vice President at Random House. He is also a contributing editor to Time magazine. A former editor of Newsweek magazine, he serves as a regular contributor to the New York Times, Washington Post, Meet the Press, Morning Joe, and Charlie Rose. John Meacham was born in Chattanooga and attended Macaulay School and then the University of the South. He began his work in the journalism field immediately after college when he went to work for the Chattanooga newspapers. He then parlayed a love of history, given to him in part by his grandfather, into becoming the author of such significant books as Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power, Franklin and Winston, American Gospel, God, the Founding Fathers and the Making of a Nation, and the Pulitzer Prize-winning work, American Lion. He has recently submitted a manuscript for his new biography on George Herbert Walker Bush, our 41st president. The city of Nashville was indeed fortunate when John and his wife Keith and their 3 children decided to move here several years ago. He has been a visiting professor both at Vanderbilt and Sewanee and a frequent host for a variety of important figures and political personalities who have come to Nashville. John's amazing understanding of history and politics are rare gifts. The MBA faculty and staff were fortunate to hear him speak last summer at the annual International Boys School Conference when he delivered an extraordinary lecture about passing on the attributes of charm, courage, curiosity, and resilience to his own children from the great biographies he has crafted. This evening, I know we are in store for another special moment of hearing history framed from the perspective of a wise and savvy journalist and friend. Please welcome to MBA's 148th commencement, John Meacham.
Thank you, Headmaster, Mr. Chairman, distinguished trustees, more distinguished faculty, tuition-paying parents, well done, thou good and faithful servants, and members of the class of 2015. After listening to Thomas and Michael, I really don't have a whole lot to add. So we will be brief. Those were marvelous occasions. It reminded me briefly of a story when Ronald Reagan was in Hollywood before he was in politics. People who were having benefits would sometimes call him and ask him to come to their events. And he would say, "But why do you want me? I can't sing or dance." And they would say, "We know, but you can speak after someone who can." So in that sense, I will try to do this after they did. I'm grateful for your hospitality. Mr. Joya's invitation was a characteristic act of grace, for as you heard, I am a graduate of a certain rival school down I-24. Your headmaster and I, however, share an undergraduate alma mater, the University of the South, which, for those of you who may not know it particularly well, it's best understood as a combination of Downton Abbey and Deliverance. And I am delighted to be a father of a member of the MBA class of 2021, if all goes well. It's a long way, as you all know, and your parents know even better. I know well that I'm the only thing standing between you and the rest of your lives, and so I will be brief. But it is meet and right to take a moment to reflect on the work that you've been about and the work that awaits you beyond this truly marvelous school. There are 116 of you, headed to 58 colleges, and an infinity of joys and sorrows. But God willing, more of the former than of the latter. One thing is certain, that you will carry what you have learned here and the friendships you have made here through all the length of days. I am, as the headmaster pointed out, a historian. I'm someone who tries to take the disparate elements of the past, what William James called the blooming, buzzing confusion of reality, in order to make something new and resonant. I believe deeply, and I believe that you will come to agree, particularly as you grow older, that William Faulkner was right when he wrote that the past is never dead. It isn't even past. History and tradition are not infallible, but we have nowhere else to begin our deliberations about what we should do except by reference to what we have done. And so remembrance, history, lies at the core of our common enterprise. The song of the aged Moses probably said it best. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. We look back in order to summon the courage and the wisdom with which to move forward. We do this collectively at our best as a nation, and we do so in our individual lives too, born, as you have no doubt read, ceaselessly back into that past. My counsel to you is to make history your ally and not your enemy. Arthur Schlesinger Jr., the late historian, once remarked that history is to a nation as memory is to a person. And while memories are painful and sometimes debilitating, experience proves that the past is a stubborn thing, and it is as inevitable as the weather, although we hope not as inevitable as you're thinking right now. So our common task is to make the best use of that which has gone before and move forward together. Knowing the history of freedom, knowing liberality in the sense that we're speaking in the sense of the understanding of the word free, is not only illuminating, but enabling. A person who understands the past, with all its glory and grandeur and horror and injustice, understands that, as Winston Churchill once put it, the path of civilization, while never straight, is essentially upward to what he called the sunlit lands of peace and happiness. The world has already turned over many times since you have been in it. The year many of you were born was, and this is a reality check for the rest of us, 1997, which means I have pairs of shoes older than many of you. It was roughly the first year of the second term of Bill Clinton. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was at 7,900. A gallon of gas cost $1.19. New television shows included Buffy the Vampire Slayer and South Park. 1 for 2 ain't bad. It was the year that gave us the movies Titanic, Men in Black, and most notably, Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. Any year that gave us Austin Powers and all of you is a pretty good year. It was also the year that brought the publication of an obscure novel, the first in what was hopefully to be a series. You may have heard of Harry Potter, who came into our lives the same time you did. You were just 4 years old when terror struck us out of a brilliant blue sky in 2001. For well over half your lifetimes, and this is a remarkable statistic, the United States of America has been at war, something that can be said only of the very first generation of Americans in the late 18th century. And you were just about to begin the application process for MBA when the first African American in history was elected President of the United States. So you know what history feels like. You've already lived through a fair chunk of it. And you know, at least implicitly, that the only thing we know for certain is that the world is going to turn over again and again and yet again, even to the end of the age. You're leaving MBA as citizens of the most powerful nation in the history of the world. For 70 summers, since August of 1945, just 2 months away, America has been greater than Rome ever was and greater than Britain. But Earth's proud empires rise and fall. That's the nature of the things of this world. The nation, as you're entering it, requires innovation, energy, creativity. And because of this place and what you have learned here, you are uniquely prepared to take up the responsibilities that await. Curiosity will no doubt sustain you. You've already begun to engage what Matthew Arnold called the best that has been thought and said in the world. From mathematics to Mozart, from political history to the basics of physics, from Mandarin to Toni Morrison, from really anything to anything else. Liberal education, the kind you've experienced here, offers you a way of knowing and of thinking. And the affairs of the world of the 21st century are global in nature. Borders have not mattered so little since the gazelles first loped across the savannah. As Americans, we face fundamental economic, political, and moral challenges, and we must remain innovative and competitive, for experience tells us that broad and shared prosperity is crucial to the maintenance of democracy. A word about politics. We are in the midst of a great partisan struggle in which a professional class of activists on the internet and on cable television appear to have more invested in the perpetuation of conflict than they do in the resolution of problems. Morally, we face the question of whether the great achievement of the last century, the building, often at somewhat public expense, of a sturdy middle class that benefited from both private enterprise and government investment, whether that middle class is to be sustained or discarded. It is true that every generation tends to think of itself as challenged and under siege. The questions of the present assume outsized urgency, for they are, after all, the questions that shape and suffuse the lives of those of the moment. Humankind seems to be forever coping with crisis. We can probably strike the seams. We are forever coping with crisis, and will until what Faulkner described as the last red and dying evening. At its best, MBA has armed you for what Oliver Wendell Holmes called the passion and action of the times. Your weapons, and you already have them, are the elements that form this school's sure foundation: grace and strength and love. It is grace that will enable you to appreciate and be grateful for good fortune as you pursue, with varying degrees of success, life's glittering prizes. It is strength that will make arms strong amid adversity, giving you the will and the means to endure, and you will need that will. And it is love that gives shape and meaning to everything in hours of triumph and trial, of success and failure. And so, if I may, be curious, be gracious, be hopeful. Love your neighbor. Take a nap outside on summer afternoons. Read Jane Austen and Anthony Trollope as much as possible. Read detective stories. Go to the movies. Vote in each and every election. In Chattanooga, we do that more than once each time. Never be embarrassed to put your hand over your heart and join in when a band strikes up the national anthem. Write thank you notes on real paper, the dead tree kind. It'll set you apart. Trust me on this one. Try to look up from those screens, whether on your phone or on your wrist. Yes, technology contains multitudes, but virtual reality is just that, virtual. And above all, remember in hours of joy and of darkness that a well-lived life is judged not by the bottom line, but by the big picture. If you remember this, you'll make history. And the rest of us can't wait to see what you all do with your own hour upon the stage. It'll be fantastic. And the stories you're about to write in your lives and in the life of the nation and of the world will be stories not of fear but of hope, not of despair but of joy, not of cynicism but of caritas. And there is, in the end, no more important story than that. So go to it. God bless you.
John Meacham, I thank you for being such a good friend to the school, and I look forward to having you and your family here next year very much. It's a treat to hear him. I suspect that probably no one could have imagined the MBA of 2015 when Montgomery Bell's will was probated in 1855. Even John Berrien Lindsay, once president of Princeton University, or known as the College of New Jersey at the time, who came to Nashville to be headmaster of our predecessor school, could not fathom how Montgomery Bell's vision of establishing a school for boys became the reality we know today. 740 students, approximately 140 staff and faculty, 12 buildings, and nearly 40 acres here at Harding Road, and approximately 10 more acres on 42nd Avenue, and another 200 acres, fields, trails, a lake, and observatory in McMinnville, Tennessee, all define the MBA of 2015 statistically. But we are, of course, much more than statistics. Our school speaks of history and traditions and great friendships, literally an institution where grown men reminisce about teachers and coaches and classmates who changed their lives and became their best friends. A place where the sense of community is real, tangible, and significant. MBA means so much to so many individuals, and this community and this campus, I hope, will always be a place where you can return safely and happily and with great pride. I also wish as well that the lessons and teachings here will remain with you always so that you can confront life's challenges and difficulties. I believe you will find few places in your lives where you can discover the same balance and excellence of MBA. My view of that vision rests clearly and fully in this class of 2015 and who you are, as well as in the faculty and staff. Whatever perspective you see in MBA, I hope your vision of Montgomery Bell Academy rises above the vagaries of time and change. MBA is proudly a school for great young men focused on a motto of gentleman, scholar, athlete. Our commitments are clear, concise, and prioritized. Now, would the class of 2015 please stand? Guests, friends, colleagues, and parents, we have reserved as the single most important honor the MBA diploma. Each student will be recognized equally tonight to show that he has earned a distinct honor at MBA. Gentlemen, you have done well. We are proud of you. You have had many tests and papers at MBA, but the real examinations will follow you long after MBA in the ways you treat others and yourself, in what kind of men, friends, husbands, and citizens you are, in how honorably you live each moment. I present you now to Mr. Ingram and the Board of Trustees and the faculty as successfully completing the requirements for graduation at MBA, recommending you to receive your diplomas. Will the first row please come forward? Congratulations. You are now alumni. We're getting there. Hold on 1 minute. And I invite everyone to come into the dining hall and see the class of 2015. Their names are now up. As I said, they are now alumni. Finally, I leave you with these thoughts. I hope your experience at MBA widens and deepens over the years. I hope you will find the time to take good care of yourself personally, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. I hope you will remember that you are not better than anyone else because you attended MBA, but I do hope that you are in many ways a better person and student and citizen because you were here. I hope that you will find a way to live your life with graciousness, I hope you will be more forgiving than critical, more giving than taking, and more complete than limiting in your interest, involvement, and relationships. May you build a life, not merely make a living. May you find that grace under all of life's pressures, remembering that a good heart, hard work, gentle understanding, a sense of humor, and compassion will serve you well. Live as though you will die tomorrow. Learn and study as if you will live forever. And I conclude with a prayer from E.E. Cummings. We thank you, God, for this amazing day, for the leaping green leaf spirits of trees and a blue, true dream of a sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. Amen.